Hi guys. So today I want to talk a little bit about coaching and specifically what I think makes a good coach. I know that in a lot of my videos I'm sharing tips specifically for aerial, I'm sharing different exercises or talking about the training itself, but I wanted to make a video that goes over some of the things that I think are really important in being a good and competent coach. My name is Verity. I am an online aerial coach specializing in strength and conditioning. So, there are a few different topics that I'm going to cover in this video. And really, it's just an opportunity for me to share a little bit more about my opinions and insights into how I approach coaching and why I think these specific attributes are really important and valuable. So, number one, I will never be in Cirque. And I'm going to elaborate on this. So, I didn't start my physical fitness journey until I was 22. And I didn't actually start aerial until I turned 29. I had done a lot of strength and conditioning and calisthenics before aerial, which definitely helped. But the point I'm trying to make with this is that I don't come from a background in dance or gymnastics. And the sad thing about this is that I will never be a Cirque du Soleil level performer. I will never be that kind of level of athlete simply because I didn't start from a young enough age. But the massive advantage that this does give me as a coach is that I had to learn everything as an adult, which means I can remember not being able to do all of the things that I can do now. So I can remember not being able to balance a handstand. I can remember not being able to do a push up or a pull up. I remember the first time I did a barbell squat, a barbell back squat in the gym, and it was like part of my nervous system kind of went blind and I didn't know what was happening or what was going on in my body. Like I can remember that sensation. And so this is something that actually is really helpful when coaching adults. I only work with adults. And a lot of adults come into aerial without prior background in other sports or exercise. And so it's really useful to be able to relate to and empathize with the struggles that other adults go through when it comes to learning movement and particularly learning aerial, because I can remember what it felt like to be going through that, and I can look at somebody and I can see what it is they're struggling with and why, and then it makes it easier for me to break down the steps that they need in order to achieve the goal that they're working towards. And so I've always actually felt quite grateful for that, that part of my ability to break skills down, part of my ability to come up with exercises that are accessible and create appropriate regressions for people is simply for the fact that I went through what they're going through, but just a number of years earlier. So this brings me nicely onto the next one, which is prioritizing accessibility. So when I say accessibility, what I mean is making movements doable for somebody based on the current level that they are at. There is honestly nothing worse than watching somebody struggle with something that they either just can't do or aren't physically ready for in an aerial class or in a training session. Not only is it not great for their body, like it's not a good idea to throw yourself into skills, but it can be really demoralizing for the aerialist. Like imagine being in a class and just feeling like there is something wrong with you and your body because you can't do what the other students are doing. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like if somebody is not ready for a particular drill or particular movement, there is always a way to make it easier or to make it simpler. Like it is possible to break skills down into tiny, tiny pieces, or simply offer a different drill or a different variation so that somebody is successfully able to do an exercise. That is such an important thing for me. I also work with a range of levels. Like, I have clients who are pro performers, I have clients who have only been doing aerial for a couple of years. And it's really important that when I'm programming for them, I am giving them training that is what their body needs, that is right for their body, that they can do. Otherwise, I'm basically just sending them off to do something that is going to make them feel like they are failing. I talk about this a lot, how the quickest way to work towards your goals is to train the movements that your body needs based on the level that you're currently at that are giving you the steps towards those goals. So if somebody is training movements that they're not ready for, that are too difficult, that they can't really do at all, it's just a waste of time. It's not going to get them the results. Aerial should be super inclusive. It is for all bodies. There are other things that need to be taken into consideration for people, like body proportions. The shape of your body will impact how certain movements are. There are also people that do aerial with physical disabilities, and all of these things need to be considered when you're working with a wide range of clients. So I'm getting a bit off track here. I'm kind of going into inclusivity, but it all kind of ties together. Like, making aerial accessible is a really big passion of mine, and it's something that I think is super important to be able to do as a coach. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is learning and constantly trying to improve your skills and your knowledge as a coach. Anyone who thinks that they, as a coach, know everything and have finished with their learning probably actually have more things that they could be learning. I really place a high value on education and learning from people who are further ahead than you are, and so I want to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that has helped me to achieve what I have as a coach and as an aerialist is simply getting support and help from other people and other coaches and doing more learning. So I did my first ever certification for fitness in 2011 when I became a personal trainer. I got my level 3 diploma, and then from there I've done a bunch of certifications, and I also probably couldn't tell you the number of workshops, seminars, one-on-one sessions, online coaching, mentorships, intensives that I have been through over the past 14 years. And it's not my intention to stop learning now. Like, I think it's so important to help you to stay open-minded, to remember that even if you have a method as a coach that works really well, it might not work for absolutely everybody, and it's important to be open to change. It's important to be fluid as a coach and be flexible with how you're supporting people. It's also really important to recognize that you just don't know everything, and sometimes you need to get help from somebody else to be able to better support your clients. So one of my biggest experiences to kind of back this up was that when I first learned to handstand, I actually did a lot of it just through like self-training and self-learning, and I used resources from the internet. I had been to a couple of workshops and I'd had some support from like coaches in person, but it hadn't been like really regular. And I basically just obsessively trained handstands, and I used to think it was really cool to be like, oh, I'm self-taught. Well, guess what? I self-taught myself wrong. I taught myself how to handstand in a position that was not optimal, and I ended up having to relearn how to handstand. I had to undo all of the bad habits I had developed, and I had to learn everything all over again, and I lost a lot of time because of that. And so I know that you can teach yourself certain things, especially if you're already quite a high level at whatever discipline it is you're doing. But I'm really not a fan of the whole like self-taught thing. It is quicker and easier to learn from somebody who knows more from you. It is as simple as that. It's really important to, you know, have somebody else's input into what you're doing, because they will catch things that you just don't. So I'm quickly going to share a couple of my highlights in terms of my learning experiences over the past 14 years. So the best certification that I ever did, I mean, they've all been good because I've always learned something, but my CrossFit Gymnastics Level 2 was an excellent certification. It was in Amsterdam in 2016. They weren't run very frequently. I don't know how frequently they're run now. So I had to travel to Europe for that, but it was run by ex-professional gymnasts. And I learned so much about breaking down skills. They really embodied body weight movements being accessible for adults. I had the best time on that weekend and it was an excellent certification. I still use things that I have learned from that weekend certification even now with my clients. One of the best online coaching experiences that I had was with a coach who taught me to press handstand. She programmed my training. I did that independently and then I sent her videos for feedback. And this is actually how I coach my aerialist clients now. I got my press handstand in 2 months. I obviously had been training handstands before that, which helped, but it was the fact that I had this tailored programming. I had excellent feedback from a very experienced coach, and it just helped me to propel forwards with my handstand training. And I have been able to do press handstands since then, and I love that skill. I also took part in the Audacity project with Rachel Strickland, which was a mentorship, and that was a really fantastic experience. That was group coaching, but with a lot of one-on-one support from Rachel. And it was for a skill set to basically learn how to, become a more successful performer and build and create art that really mattered to you. And then one of my favorite aerial intensives that I've been on was Spins and Spirals. You might have heard of that. It's with Jenny and Ash in Ireland. And obviously I'm a spin fanatic and they have been quite a big influence on my choice of aerial style and movement. So to learn from them in person like that was really, really brilliant. And so all of this is just to say that, to be a better coach, you just want to keep learning from other people. There is so much that you can learn from people who are ahead of you. You can also learn a lot from newer coaches, but the point is that we all need help and we all need support and we all need to understand that we have limitations and we don't always know everything. And I'm excited about the things that I'm going to keep learning in the future that are going to make me a better coach, that are going to help me show up better for my clients. So yeah, learning, acquiring more knowledge and skills, I am a big fan of that. So I want to talk about some of the things that I have learned from becoming a performer and how that has made me a better coach. At some point, I definitely want to make a video that really talks about performing and my experience of becoming a performer in my 30s, because I have quite a lot to say on that. But I'm going to just talk about how it's helped me with my coaching and why I am immensely grateful for that experience. And I just want to say, I definitely don't think that you need to become a professional performer to be a good aerial coach. They are two completely different skill sets. But I've definitely been able to bring some of what I've experienced from performing into my skills as a coach. So the first thing is that if I hadn't learned how to perform and then actively performed over the past couple of years, I just don't think I would be able to support my clients who are also performers as well as I do. And that's simply for the fact that I wouldn't truly understand what they were going through. Like it's very different to experience performing versus seeing it from afar. And I definitely had some misconceptions around the reality of being a performer before I started. It's one of the reasons why I don't do it full time, because it turned out to be slightly different than I thought it would be. And it's quite physically and emotionally and mentally taxing. However, because I have experienced that, I am able to better support my clients who are professional performers because I understand what they're going through and I understand that they need different things than a client who does aerial more just for fun. And that is something that I feel is invaluable because I know that if I have a pro performer approach me for coaching, I already know that I have the skills and the knowledge and the experience to support them. The other thing that I have gained from performing is it's really been the thing that has made me realize and kind of reinforce my thought about aerial being physically demanding and a lot on the body. So I have been able to push myself quite hard with my training for periods of time over the years, but that doesn't compare to doing 3 shows a day. When you've put the tent up, you've also got to take it down at the end of the day. You probably haven't had enough sleep because you were up at 6:30 so that you could travel to the place that you're performing. Like, that is a whole different thing to experience, and it's a different way of having to push your body. And one of the things that I really had to be careful with when I was doing lots of performing through summer last year and the year before that, was making sure that I took care of myself, making sure that I got enough sleep, that I ate the right food, that I was recovering. And so it's just helped me to really remember that whether we are doing aerial recreationally or professionally, it's a lot on the body. And this influences how I coach my clients and how I support them. And I think it's really important to be able to take a step back and remember, how hard of a movement discipline aerial can be and what it actually takes from us physically. Because looking at it, like the bigger picture, it just helps with making sure that we don't overtrain, that we're not going to end up burning out, and that we can take care of ourselves. And so this has been a really valuable thing for me to kind of bring into my coaching and the way that I support my clients. So the next thing I want to talk about is empathy and why I think empathy is a really important attribute to have as a coach. So something that is really important to me is that if somebody joins my coaching program, I need to remember that my coaching program and us working together is only a small part of their whole life. Like, I am working not just with an aerialist, but I am working with a human being. And most of my clients, they have full-time jobs, they have partners, they might have a family, they might have kids, and they have other things going on in their life. And it's really important to me to remember that that is the case. My coaching program is just a part of their life, and sometimes it's not going to be the priority, and that is completely okay. Like, if I'm working with somebody over a period of 12 weeks, I've got to understand that there's going to be disruptions to their training over that period of time simply because life happens. Like, maybe they come down with a sickness, maybe there's an emergency at work, maybe there's a family emergency, like anything could happen. And of course, in those moments, sorting out whatever it is they need, that's the priority, not actually doing the training. And it's funny because when I started coaching, I had very different priorities. I was obviously a lot younger and I was obsessed with exercise, and I couldn't understand why all of my clients weren't. And I used to feel frustrated when people couldn't get all of their training done, and I just didn't get it. And it's taken a lot of years of maturing as a person and as a coach to truly understand that, like, exercise is a part of your life. It should be something that you do because it makes your life better. It shouldn't be something that consumes your life. And okay, my life kind of revolves around aerial because my job is being an aerialist. I coach aerial and I still perform, but I also understand that there are times where I need a break from it all. I have taken up to 4 weeks off at a time from training aerial just to, like, give myself a proper reset, because I understand that it's not sustainable to obsessively train for long periods of time, and it also can take away from enjoying other parts of my life. And so it's really important to remember this with clients, and I think this is where empathy comes in. So when somebody comes to me and they say, I couldn't get the session done because of X, Y, and Z, my job in that moment is to tell them that it's okay. Missing a session or two because you were just tired and you needed a rest, or because, like, something happened at work, that's literally okay. That's fine. That is not going to ruin your progress. And you need to have the empathy to understand this and to support your clients through those moments. It's not about shaming or telling them off. It's never about that. It's always about how can we create safety in this moment so that they know it's okay, nothing bad has happened, and then support them in getting back to their next session. So when I talk about the fact that I'm supporting the whole human and I'm working with a whole human, this is what I mean. It's the fact that I'm supporting somebody in a part of their life, and I understand that there is more to them than just aerial, right? There is a person behind the aerialist, and being empathetic towards that and helping people through the trickier moments, like, that's when you're doing a really good job as a coach. It's not just giving feedback on movements, it's not just telling them that they're doing a good job, it's helping them through the trickier moments where aerial is less of a priority and they maybe need to put their own needs above their training. And then I also just want to touch on empathy as a way of, supporting and celebrating clients. So I think that one of the things that can feel very frustrating when you're training as an adult is that you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to achieve the goals that you want. And with skill work, because it can be so slow, it can just feel like you're not making progress. I talk about this when I'm having conversations with people who are interested in joining my coaching program about how celebrating wins are really important. This is another thing that comes with being an empathetic person, is wanting to support and lift people up, especially when they feel they're maybe not doing as well as they would like. So it's not about not allowing those feelings. Of course, if you are not feeling great about your training for whatever reason, you completely can feel like that. But having the empathy to be like, okay, despite the fact that you're not feeling so great, we can look at these really good things that have happened in your training this past week, and we can focus a bit more on those as well. So there's space for both. Um, and I think, really trying to support and lift people up and celebrate them and empower them is a really good thing. And so while I never want to dismiss somebody's feelings, I definitely want to try and take positives from a situation so that the focus isn't only on, something that they maybe feel bad about. And so again, it all comes back to, treating clients like they're human beings with feelings. And yeah, I think empathy is a valuable tool when it comes to coaching. And it's something that I really try and utilize in how I work with my clients. So if you've made it to the end of this video, congratulations. Thank you for listening. I think this was a bit of a long one, and really kind of just me sharing my stream of thoughts around what I think makes a good coach and some of the, attributes that I've really tried to embrace over the years as I've developed my skills as a coach. If you have any thoughts about what you think makes a good coach or attributes that you think are important in a coach, feel free to share in the comments. I would love to hear about that. If you found this video helpful or you think that you have a buddy who would find it helpful, please share it, please like, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.